Long before the modern world had maps, cameras, or explanations for the unknown, there was a stretch of golden desert in Egypt where the wind never seemed to rest. People of that time believed the desert was not empty, but watching. And in the middle of that silence, the pyramids began. It is said the story of the pyramids started not as stone, but as fear. Ancient builders believed that death was not an ending, but a passage. Pharaohs, rulers like Khufu, were thought to become gods after death, but only if their bodies were protected from decay, thieves, and forgotten time itself. So the idea of the pyramid was born, a mountain of stone meant to guard eternity. Workers carved limestone under burning sun, dragging massive blocks across sand that swallowed footprints as soon as they were made. At night, when the fires dimmed, some swore they heard whispers coming from the half-built structures, voices that were not human, but also not wind. As the Great Pyramid of Giza rose higher, rumors began to spread among the workers. Some said the pyramid was not just a tomb, but a seal. They believed something inside the earth had been locked away beneath its foundations long before the first stone was placed. Others laughed, but even they refused to enter certain chambers alone. Shadows inside the tunnels felt heavier than darkness should feel, as if the stone itself remembered every breath ever taken within it. When the pyramid was finally completed, it stood like a silent mountain, perfectly aligned with the stars. But perfection has always made people uneasy. Travelers who passed near it at night claimed they saw faint lights moving through its upper passages, though no torches were lit. Nomads told stories of hearing footsteps inside the stone, slow and deliberate, as if someone was walking through sealed walls. Centuries passed, and the pyramids became legend. Many were forgotten, swallowed by sand and time, until explorers from distant lands arrived. They came with lanterns, curiosity, and disbelief. Among them were archaeologists who sought the tomb of the boy king in the Tutankhamun's tomb. When they broke the seal, the air inside the chamber was still for a moment, too still, as if it had been waiting for thousands of years to move again. Inside were treasures beyond imagination, gold that reflected torchlight like trapped sunlight, and painted walls that seemed almost alive in the flickering glow. But alongside wonder came unease. Some workers reported strange dreams after entering the tomb, dreams of corridors that stretched farther than the pyramid itself, and of a presence watching from behind carved stone eyes. This is where the rumor of the curse began. People connected to the discovery of the tomb began to fall ill or meet sudden ends. Newspapers called it the curse of the pharaohs, though scientists insisted there was no magic, only coincidence and bacteria trapped in sealed air. Still, fear spreads faster than reason. Visitors to ancient tombs began whispering that disturbing the dead awakens something that does not like to be disturbed. Deeper within pyramid myths lies the most unsettling story of all, the mummy's curse. It is said that pharaohs were not only preserved, but guarded. Their bodies were wrapped in linen, yes, but also in spells written to protect them from intruders. Some claim these spells were not symbolic, but real forces tied to belief itself. Explorers who mocked the dead were said to suffer strange misfortunes, lost paths in the desert, tools breaking without cause, or the feeling of being followed home by something unseen. One story tells of a chamber no map records, discovered briefly and then sealed again. Inside, explorers allegedly found a sarcophagus with no markings at all. No gold, no name, only deep scratches on the inside of the stone lid, as if something had once tried to get out. The chamber was closed immediately, but those who entered refused to speak of what they saw. Some never returned to excavation again. Modern scans of the Great Pyramid of Giza have revealed hidden voids and chambers still unexplained. Scientists describe them as architectural gaps, but local stories say otherwise. Desert guides whisper that the pyramids are not just tombs, they are locks. And locks, by their nature, are meant to keep something in. Even today at night, people living near the pyramids say the silence feels different. Not peaceful, aware. Tourists leave before sunset, but those who stay sometimes report a strange sensation. The feeling that the stone is not ancient, but simply waiting, watching, listening, and so the mystery continues. Were the pyramids only monuments to kings, or something far older and stranger disguised as history? Did the pharaohs rest peacefully inside, or did they become part of the structures meant to protect them? Or perhaps the most unsettling idea of all, that the pyramids were never meant to hide the dead from the world, but to hide the world from something beneath the desert. Still dreaming in Stone Dot in the deepest part of the desert in Egypt, there is a pyramid that is never shown on tourist maps. Locals call it by many names, but most simply refuse to say it out loud. They believe that naming it makes it easier to find, and once found, it is harder to leave. The story begins long after the great builders of the Great Pyramid of Giza had finished their work. A small expedition team, made up of explorers and researchers, was sent into an uncharted region after satellite images showed an unusual geometric shape beneath shifting sand. At first, it looked like a natural formation, but when they dug deeper, stone corners appeared, too straight, too precise, too deliberate to be anything made by nature. As they uncovered more, they realized this pyramid was different. It had no visible entrance, no carvings, no hieroglyphs, just smooth stone that seemed almost untouched by time. Still, at night, the desert wind around the site behaved strangely. It circled the structure instead of passing over it, as if avoiding something unseen. On the third night, one of the workers swore he heard a sound from beneath the sand. Not a collapse, not the wind, but a slow rhythm like something tapping from inside the earth. Others dismissed him, but he refused to sleep after that. By the fifth day, they found a hidden slit in the stone too narrow for a person to enter. But it was not empty. Inside the opening, there was darkness deeper than shadow, as if light itself refused to go further. One of the researchers lowered a camera inside. The footage came back distorted. At first, it showed only a narrow corridor sloping downward. But the deeper it went, the more unnatural it became. The walls seemed too smooth, almost like they were polished from the inside. Then the camera picked up something unexpected, marks on the stone that looked like handprints, but too large and spaced too far apart to belong to any human. The transmission cut out. That night the team argued. Some wanted to leave immediately. Others insisted they were close to a historic discovery. But as they spoke, they noticed something unsettling. The pyramid no longer looked exactly the same as it did during the day. Subtle changes appeared, stones that seemed shifted, shadows that didn't match the angle of the moon. Then came the dreams. Each member of the team reported the same thing. They were standing inside endless corridors beneath the pyramid, walking through passages that should not exist. There were no torches, yet everything was visible in a dim, gray light. And always there was the sound of movement behind them, slow, patient, never rushing but never stopping. One by one, they began refusing to enter the excavation site alone. On the seventh night, the desert went completely silent. No wind, no insects. Even the distant dunes seemed frozen. The team leader stepped outside the tent and saw something that made him freeze. The entrance they had discovered was gone. In its place was solid stone, as if it had never been opened at all. But the camera, still inside the structure, was transmitting again. No one wanted to watch the feed, but they did. This time the footage showed something new. The corridor was no longer empty. Something was moving inside it, not walking quickly, not running, just approaching steadily, inevitably. The shape was unclear, always just out of focus, but its presence filled the frame. And then the strangest part happened. The camera turned around by itself. It was now facing outward from inside the pyramid. As if whatever was in there had noticed it was being watched, the feed ended. By morning, the camp was empty. The equipment remained, but the people were gone. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints leading away. Just the silent pyramid sitting in the desert as if nothing had ever happened. Later expeditions found only sand and stillness. The site was marked as inconclusive. Official reports labeled it a misinterpreted geological structure and closed the case. But travelers crossing that desert still tell a different story. They say that if you pass by that region at night, you might see a faint outline in the sand. Something that looks like a pyramid where no pyramid should be. And if you stop and listen carefully, you can sometimes hear a distant tapping sound beneath the ground, as if something below the desert is still trying to find its way out, or perhaps trying to find its way in. No one knows for certain. And that is why, even after thousands of years, the pyramids remain not just wonders of the ancient world, but silent, enduring mysteries wrapped in sand, shadow, and stories that refuse to die. Pyramids. A question for you. What do you think, pyramids are really scary, or that all were just rumors?